So without further ado, what we will do now is go on to our Noble Goldman principles. So we just read these out. Anne-Marie, I guess if you've been on a few different meetings this week already, you've probably seen that before. So what we'll do is just give everyone a number. So what I thought, keep it simple, we'll just use the same numbers that we've just spoken in. So Anne-Marie will go off first, and then Trudy will be number 2, V will be number 3, Di number 4, Stan number 5, and I'll do number 6. So if you'd like to kick us off, Anne-Marie, and just read that first sentence. Can you see that all right? We lost Anne-Marie.
The purpose of the mastermind is to learn leadership, build teams, and create multiple sources of income together.
We are here to inspire and challenge each other to reach and succeed goals.
Each member is committed to their own success as well as the success of every member of the group.
We are committed to meet in person or virtually for 1 hour every week.
We are present. There is no multitasking or distractions during the meeting.
We are collaborative. We listen without interrupting, lecturing, or judging.
We celebrate each other's successes without jealousy.
We are honest and participate by giving thoughtful feedback.
We are open and listen to different perspectives without being defensive or offering excuses.
We trust fellow members enough to share fully.
What number am I?
You're next.
We are focused, but we think it's important to have fun during the meeting.
We are real and authentic. This is a no BS zone.
We allow ourselves to become completely aligned with each other and the high forces, one mind, one soul, one love.
Awesome, thank you. And I love that Irish accent. It's a beautiful one. Yeah. Stop share. Okay, thank you all for that. Just sets the tone for how we conduct ourselves, which is great. So we come to today's topic, and as some of you know, I kind of randomly pick these out depending on what's been going on during the week or what's happened. And this was actually prompted by my wife today, because she was feeling a bit down and a bit grumpy and a bit kind of unmotivated, shall we say, even though she's got plenty about which to be motivated. And I thought that's actually quite a good topic to talk about, is how do you get out of, and the word I came up with is, how do you get out of a funk? So I don't know if you've ever heard that word used in that context, but I looked up the definition in the Cambridge Dictionary was the state of being unhappy and without hope. Well, maybe without hope is a little bit inapplicable in this case, because there's certainly plenty of hope there, but state of just being generally grumpy and down and feeling like there's, even though you may have purpose, you've kind of disconnected with it to some degree, and that perhaps you're struggling to find that motivation to get up and do the things that you know you should be doing, which can happen with perhaps with overwhelm, or with tiredness, or perhaps a poor diet, eating the wrong things, not feeling, which you're going to be covering, I'm sure, with the nutrition shortly. But yeah, just feeling generally down in the dumps, I suppose, is the old saying that you would use. So when does this happen? Why does it happen? And what can we do to move ourselves through it? Now, is there anybody here who would say, well, it never happens to me, I'm always positive and always upbeat? Anyone like to say that? So I'm assuming that because we're all human, there will be some moments where we've experienced this. Anyone like to share anything in particular, any thoughts about that and about how it's come about, what might have triggered it, and your story, I guess? Anyone want to jump in?
Yeah, I'm happy to. I suppose mine's actually even been as recent as today, in the fact that, I signed up for this course on Sunday and I know it's there, and I suppose it's a bit of overwhelm and being out of routine, trying to work out how I should structure my day, because there's part of me that goes, you should do it at night when, you know, because that's what your routine's going to have to be when you go back to work. And then the other part of me is going, well, hang on a minute, you've got all this free time, you need to use it. But then it's all of a sudden you start noticing things like the dishes need to be done, or the girls haven't done the dishes properly, or my desk's untidy, so I should just clean that up. And so you start, you know, finding other things to do. So what I did today was write out a list of all those things that need to be done, and I just asked myself, is this my priority right now? And you know, and I went, no. I wanted to get on a couple of masterminds, so I got on to Mark's one this morning, and I'm on to this one today. And, you know, and I printed off the documents for the course, and I've started to read through them. So, but I could see myself getting into that pattern of overwhelm when I'm about to take on something that I haven't studied for 34 years. So, you know, I mean, I have studied obviously with what I was learning for Dad, but when I had no other choice but to do that because of he needed that information straight away, it was easy to do. But because this is my own timeline, and there isn't that urgency, it's easy to let things slip. So for me, I keep finding myself just dump out of the brain, write it down, everything down, and then work, and then talk myself through it. What is the most important thing for me to get done today?
That's great awareness, great self-awareness, that you caught yourself recognizing an old pattern. Pattern behavior is certainly something we all experience, and then you had some techniques for how you would get yourself out of it, which sounds like activity was one of the things, just picking yourself and actually doing something towards what was going to serve you.
Yeah, definitely.
Very good. Yeah, thank you. Anyone else? Yep, Trudy.
Yeah, just looking at the topic and that, just sort of thinking, you know, in the part, yeah, you know, like I said, we're all human. We all go through these emotions and feelings. And what I noticed, not even, yeah, probably recently, like because we were in lockdown for nearly 2 months in India, I think, you know, solid lockdown. No, so that was a bit sort of depressing. So I would just turn to affirmations, or just made myself get up and dance. Set some loud music, because, you know, it's just about raising your vibration, and once your vibration's raised, then you can get back into you know, some sort of normality, get back into getting on with life, you know. So that's what I've sort of just found is, yeah, just to try and raise my vibration these days, I'll just go straight into affirmations on YouTube, because there's so many. I've just found the latest one's called Rockstar Affirmations.
Yes,
I love them. For anything anyway, but yeah, just and then, you know, get up and dance. Life's too short to be living in a funk.
yep. Very good, thanks for that. So yeah, so you haven't created your own affirmations as such, then you're just reading out the ones that are on the website?
Yeah, I'm very much a follower. I don't write my own affirmations. But even with the YouTube ones and the Rockstar ones, they're the ones you listen to. So, you know, having the headphones on, and they go for about 20 minutes, and there's about 3 to 5 different people speaking the same affirmation over and over again. So it's that neurolinguistic pathway sort of thing. It helps to do that. Yeah, and I've just found that, you know, just changes my whole mood. Like this morning, I've been waiting on this parcel to come from the US for the course on the weekend, you know. I just got the message to say it's just arrived up the road now. Anyway, this morning I was just so angry, and then I just went, what can you do? So I just put on the affirmations and brought myself out of my anger. So it was pretty cool.
Right, very good, well done. That's a good share, because yeah, it's sometimes, especially if you're on your own, you need to have some sort of techniques that you can use to pull yourself out of it. You haven't got anybody else around that you can kind of draw on to say, help me get out of this. Then yeah, that's very, very cool. And music,
I have one.
Yeah.
Oh, she's not looking.
Oh,
Another one that gets me out of it.
yeah, pets can be great for that, can't they?
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Anyone else?
Yes, I used to be very good at getting into a funk and staying there and just wallowing in it. And that was kind of a family pattern. But I find myself very easily now just recognizing it. And it's usually when I'm sitting in front of the computer and I have to do an email or something that I really don't want to do. So I get up and move. I get up and move around or do something. And yeah, I'll dance around and just put some music on and then come back to it and in a much better mood and a better frame of mind. Movement's very important for me because I sit for so long.
Any particular kind of music?
Depends on my mood. It could even be heavy metal, and I find that could be even quite uplifting, even though a lot of the lyrics sometimes are a bit dodgy. But not country and western ever.
No, you'd be slashing your wrists and that's funny. I've now just got this image of the accountant bouncing her head around to
and obviously salsa is awesome. Yeah, and
you got to play the country music backwards. So you get your dog back, your truck back, your woman back.
Nice one, Stan.
God, you're going to throw a bit of Keith Urban in there, though.
No.
Very good. Anne-Marie, you had something to add.
Yeah, because I went and I started the 30-day quest and all as well, and like I suppose even with my mental state that I was in yesterday, I was still, it was like a struggle to try and get out of it. But I think more like so of taking responsibility of like going, well, who's this actually serving in the end? Because I'm only doing damage really to myself. And I found that journaling and just actually even writing down how I'm actually feeling and why I'm not taking responsibility for myself, so that I could actually release it within the actual writing of it as well. Because then you're like going like, well, I think you're sort of switching your mind frame. Well, if I don't do it, like I'm only actually hurt myself. So yeah, by writing it down, I think, and then visually seeing it, then it sort of get you shifting into that sort of frame of mind of like going, right, go on, just do it then for a few minutes or whatever, and then you'll get the ball rolling in whatever you want to really do. And it definitely helped me this morning as well for actually getting into that state. Like on it now, even though I got up and I done what I wanted to do, but I needed to release other like emotional stuff so that I could set myself up for the day and not let it ruin the day as well. Like so yeah, journaling, I found that was it was quite good for me now as well.
Excellent. Yeah, you know, Tony Robbins says that if you want to improve your situation, you've got to learn to ask better questions. And I certainly use that technique with journaling. I'll sometimes sit there and actually write down the question in the journal as a prompter for myself. You know, why am I feeling like this? Or why am I not happy at the moment? Or why am I going through this this bad mood or whatever? And then I'll turn it around to being, what can I do to improve my situation, you know, so that you're not just focusing on the negative, you're then twisting it around to focus on the positive action steps that you can take. But I think it helps to sort of examine, where is this coming from? You know, is there an underlying concern about something, or a fear of doing something, or a procrastination about something? And then if you can recognize what it is, you can go, why am I letting this get to you? And as you astutely said there, you know, who is this serving? If I carry on stuck like this, that's not really getting me anywhere, is it? So what can I do about this? And when you start asking those better questions, you know, what can I do? What resources do I need? Or who do I need to talk to? Or where do I go for help? Suddenly all the answers start coming to you. And that can be enough to snap you out and get you moving forwards again. So well done for that. It's good work. Stan, did you want to add anything?
So I like to get a cup of tea and move around, and you're only allowed to be in the funk until the cup of tea is made. Okay, so, sometimes I walk away and then have to come back and boil the kettle, but
Well, you know, even that is getting up and moving, isn't it? It's changing state. I think if you're sitting there, if you're your mental state is kind of reflecting your physical state. If you're sitting there, you're just sort of stuck and waiting for something to happen. But if you get up and move, you're doing something.
yeah, and while I'm waiting for the kettle, I often like dancing or doing some martial arts stuff, or you know, fighting pirates with my pen or something.
Oh, you know, from this conversation tonight, wouldn't it be funny to have a camera in each of these households? We've got Veronica there, you know, finishing her accounting work and bouncing around to heavy metal, and Stan dancing while the kettle's boiling. So, what sort of music are you dancing to, Stan?
Whatever's on the radio, generally.
Not children's tunes, is it?
No. I educated my children very well. They're all into 80s music.
I can remember when I was a young dad, and my daughter had this habit of watching. She, for some reason, absolutely loved this movie Bingo about a dog, and this tune got stuck in my head because she was always singing it about B-I-N-G-O. God. Children's tunes and nursery rhymes can do your head in after a while. So
then you need another one to fix it.
You do. I sometimes play that game with my wife, Jo. You know, sing a horrible tune just to plant it in somebody else's head, and then the next minute, 5 minutes later, they're singing the tune as well. I go, yeah, gotcha. I put that tune in your head. Oh dear. So a cup of tea, that's such an English thing, Stan, that is. I suppose
it's a very Australian thing.
It is an Australian, getting the billy boiling, isn't it?
Yeah. You might have learned it off the English.
Yeah, well, it would have been a lot of pommy migrants.
Well, actually, I think we learned it off the guys from India.
Well, this is true. How far back do we want to go?
All the way back.
But yeah,
Yeah, but the only
I'm
difference is
just going to make up a cup of tea.
that's definitely something I was brought up with. I have two English parents from Manchester and Chester, and you know, it was always, oh, I've got a bit of a problem. What are we going to do? Well, let's sit down and have a cup of tea first. You know, it's like a reset button, isn't it? Just a calming influence to have a cup of tea.
Exactly.
The other thing I
That
find
reminds me of Doctor Who.
Oh yeah, go on.
There's the first one where David Tennant comes on, and he's like, he hasn't arrived yet. He's still like he's sleeping because he's not physically there yet.
Yep.
And he's trying to tell them what he needs, but everyone's just talking so much and asking questions, he never gets a chance to say it. And he gets knocked unconscious, and a little thermos of tea falls over. And he ends up getting infused with the tea. That's all he needs.
You should have asked for fish sticks and custard.
That came later with Matt Smith.
So what about other things like, I know particularly you ladies are very good at this, at self-care, you know, going and getting your hair done or your nails done, or going to the beauty salon, or going, like somebody mentioned, a spa, or just, you know, doing something for yourself that is uniquely about yourself that makes you feel better. Is that something you would use?
I get my nails done, but it's taken me a long time to actually enjoy going and sitting there and getting it done. I love the end result, but for me, it was like I've got a million things going on in my head that I could be doing rather than allowing myself to relax. So it's something that I've had to learn to slow down and actually enjoy that time away from everyone. But I'm getting better at that. And even like the same with my hair, because it can be there for an hour and a half and it's just like, oh God, that's just like, you know, an hour and a half I could be doing something else, but I always love the end result that I get. So yeah, so hasn't been that much of a relaxant to me until recent times.
Interesting. And you other ladies, anyone got any thoughts on that?
For me, it takes a lot of planning.
Well, I wouldn't be much.
You go, Anne-Marie.
Go on. I wouldn't have been one really much for that. I'm a bit of a tomboy, so I was a mechanic like for a good 15 years, so the nails were always out of the question anyway, and so I was really getting my hair done. I always had it up, so it's not like I would have always sort of really went out for that, so like sort of pamper sort of thing, but it would have been more so if I went like on a if I was staying in a hotel or that. So it's not like something that you could do just straight off the bat. But I'd definitely, if it was something that I had to do, if it was like an out and I would have went for like a cycle or a walk in the woods, or if it was in my 5K, because we're still in lockdown as well, I'd go like for a swim. But yeah, them other things, yeah, unless I was going away for the weekend, I'd have them down. But yeah, just getting out with nature would be sort of, I could do it straight away, where all the others you'd have to book an appointment and you see if somebody's available. That's just, it's not for me.
Yeah. Lee, did you have something else to add?
Actually, it was very similar to what Anne-Marie just said, because you can't really use it to get out of a funk, because you do have to make an appointment for it. By that time, you would hope to have got out of it. So, yeah. But I do now start to schedule in that I actually do spoil myself occasionally, because I can go, I've gone more than a year without a haircut because I don't schedule it in. So, yeah, it needs to be scheduled in.
What about Stan? Is it the back, sack and crack for you, is it?
No, I would say more like camping. So I would schedule in retards time, like sharpen the saw stuff.
Yep. Camping.
Which would be for ladies, yeah. Schedule in your haircut or your nails if that's what you're into.
Yeah.
But sport would be the other one for me. So lots of martial arts, and jiu-jitsu is my therapy.
Yeah.
We would say.
So what, because you've got martial arts, what about do you ever do any of the just like the katas where you're just on your own, you're not actually fighting anybody, you're just practicing the moves?
I
Tai Chi,
suppose sometimes, generally, I find it much more relaxing to wrestle around with a whole bunch of people. You're focused on what you're doing and not everything else. You can't really think about the accounts if someone's trying to rip your arm off.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I think, for me, a couple of things that spring to mind. One is getting up and going for a walk in nature, and I particularly love taking the dog out for a walk in our local area here, because we're surrounded by forests and bushland, and some beautiful walking tracks that you can go down. And so just being out in nature and listening to the birds and being surrounded by trees, and especially if there's water, like there's a clay pit up the road where you can go and the dog will go in for a swim when it's warm enough to do that. So nature's definitely always been one of my things. I used to go, when I was living in the city, I used to go and set up at Kings Park, which was this beautiful hill. For those of you who don't know Perth, it's overlooking the whole city, overlooking the Swan River, and it's magnificent view. And I would do, like Anne-Marie said, I would sit there with a journaling as well. I'd get my notebook and just think, okay, what's going on with me? What do I need to figure out? And then I'd, ask myself the questions, and then just sit there looking at that view, and then just writing whatever came into my mind. And I would clear my head that way and just get things out on paper. But absolutely what Stan just said, sport, I've always been into sports. We used to be soccer, and now beach volleyball. I've started playing indoor beach volleyball. I've been playing that for a few years. And when I'm out on that court, I'm not thinking about anything really else except the game itself and just enjoying the moment. So it's snapping yourself back into being present, isn't it? Rather than worrying about all the things that might be going wrong, or being concerned about future issues that haven't even happened yet, or feeling guilty about or sad about stuff that's happened in the past that you can't change anyway because it's in the past. So it's about putting yourself back into that present state and really just being. And then suddenly things don't seem so bad. Adding to that, gratitude and appreciation of what you have got around you.
Yeah, I was just going to add that because I was getting angry about something. I can't even remember what it was, but I was remembering something that I heard on a Brené Brown audio thing where she was talking about how as humans we're very much if we see our kids playing or we see something and we're just in total bliss, we'll often pull ourselves out by going, oh, what if something horrible happens?
Yes.
And so, and she was talking about how somehow she got hold of this technique where if you get into that state, start listing everything you're grateful for.
Mm.
And it pulls you back into the present moment and in that moment of bliss, so you can stay there a little bit longer.
Yep, very much. Brené Brown's one of my favorites. I've read a few of her books and listened to a lot of her. And she's a great speaker. She's such a fun presenter as well. If you haven't heard her yet, I highly recommend listening to a bit of Brené Brown because she's got a lovely style about her. She's a good storyteller, isn't she? So very easy to listen to. Yeah, Di.
I think for me, for the relaxation side, it's the same. I love going for a walk. Even though I'm in the suburbs, I've still got a beautiful nature around us and waterways and stuff. So it's always beautiful to go and watch the ducklings and the ducks. And then also, you know, like I've got the 5 cats at home, so just watching them interact together, you can just lose hours of time, especially because we've got the kittens who are only 4 months old. When they start going at each other, it's just hilarious and so much fun. So that puts me in the present moment all the time and just lifts my vibration because it brings me that joy of the innocence of you know, and watching them, they've got nothing to worry about. There's nothing on their minds. They're just having fun and enjoying life. So they're my moments. And music is a big key for me. Love my music.
Yeah. Which sort of music are you into?
I'm into everything. I'm an 80s fan. And it was funny today. I went to the shops. And we were just talking about my dad who's passed, and he was a big Kenny Rogers fan. And so I've got a couple of albums on my phone, and out of nowhere, my phone starts playing Gambler from Kenny Rogers. And my phone was in my bag, my earpiece was in, and I'm like, what's going on? Where's this coming from? So he was sending me my message of I need to not stress about the shops because I was starting to lose it with a few things going on, and it just popped up. And so yeah, so I don't mind. I was brought up on a country, so I don't mind a bit of that, and definitely like my rock. So anything, it just depends on my mood on the day.
That's a great share. I can't remember what I was reading recently. I think it might have been the guy who wrote was it how to retrain your brain or something like that? Joe Dispenza.
Oh, Joe, yeah.
And wasn't he talking about looking out for the universal signs?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So if you get into quantum physics and the theories about the multiple different choices that we have ahead of us for every conceivable outcome of everything we could possibly do, and watching out for the guidance from the universe about what are the signs that give you the indications that you're on the right track. And if you've ever watched or read any of Gabrielle Bernstein's stuff, she's a great sort of spiritual guru, and I've been reading a lot of her stuff lately. And she's a great preacher of that. You know, she wrote a book, or she's quite famous for a TED talk as well, which I think went viral, which was about the universe has got your back. So she's another good one to listen to if you haven't come across her. What's that question? How's the toilet paper situation in Perth? That's a bit random. Well, yeah, it's because of the lockdown. Yes.
Yeah, no, it's because she was saying she was stressed at the shops, and I heard, you know, the crap that went on.
Yeah.
I didn't mean that word to come out, but yeah, so you guys just went crazy with toilet paper in lockdowns.
Yes, the Premier announced that the shops would be open. There'd be no need to do any panic buying. So what did everyone do? Immediately rushed to the shops and started panic buying and trying to keep everyone apart. And there's all these people standing in supermarkets next to each other with no masks on, queuing for hours and buying every toilet roll in sight, stripping the shelves, which is just nuts. I went in on Monday and it was fine. There was no reason to panic, no dramas. But yeah, Sunday evening when that announcement was made, everyone went rushing to the supermarket. It was crazy. And that's people living out of a fear base. And I think that's another good point to bring into this conversation, is that when you can adopt the habit and make it a habit of perceiving that the universe always has your back and that there will always be solutions there for you, just waiting for you to receive them, then that will happen for you. And the more you practice that, the more you develop that. It's like a muscle, you know, the more you use it, the more it comes to you. So the more you can trust that the answers will come to you, the more they will. Thanks, Anne-Marie. Lovely to see you, and please come again. It was great to have you on the call with us. She has already gave apologies, had to leave early today. Thanks. So yeah, I practiced that one. I think I was saying the other day on one of the calls that we talk to the parking fairy. So whenever we're going to the supermarket or anywhere we want to get a parking space, we're right, come on, parking fairy, and it always happens. Somebody pulls out just at the nick of time, and we've got a spot, you know. Whereas Stan was saying, that's right, it was a Friday morning call, because Stan was saying he likes to park as far away as possible so he gets his exercise in as well.
Always get a parking spot.
Yeah, always do. Yeah, even if it's 10 kilometers away from where you're trying to get to.
I know, not quite that far. But I did go out my front door to empty the rubbish bin. I ended up in a queue for Woolworths.
He's on fire tonight. Did they let you into Woolworths? Were you wearing a mask?
I don't know. I haven't been to the shops. I was thinking about picking up fuel. I usually get fuel on Monday, and I was thinking of picking up fuel as I came home from work. And the line was so long, I was just like, nah, I can't be bothered. But people were like stripping us 7-Eleven of everything it had, because all the shops were shut. Because it's like 5:30 and all the shops shut at 5.
Yeah. Oh, goodness me. Yeah, so what else? Well, so if you find that you are in a funk, as we said right at the beginning, and you're struggling to get motivation, one of the things that will remind you of what it is you're trying to achieve is to go back to, have you ever done the exercise of writing out something like 50 reasons why you want to do what it is that you want to do? So if you set yourself a goal, and well, it could be several goals, but let's just take one as an example. If you set the goal that you want to lose a dress size, or a clothing size for the gentleman as well, and so shedding weight, releasing weight is one of your goals for the year. If you take the time to sit down and write 50 reasons why this is important to you, it's quite an exercise, I can tell you, because the first 10 or 15 even maybe will come out quite quickly and easily. And then after that, you start thinking, well, what else? And you really have to get your creative brain going. I know John DeMartini does something like 200 reasons, but to even get to 50, I found quite a challenge. And I really wanted to do this. But once you've done it, the thing is, then if you're ever feeling unmotivated or you're being challenged, you get back to your notebook and you reread those 50 reasons that you wrote out, and it will snap you through that realization of why you need to get up and change state and get on with it and stop being in a funk. Because if you write down those reasons and they really are meaningful to you, then it's not the goal itself, it's what else you receive as a result of going for that goal. So even if you don't actually, let's say you want to lose 10 kilos, but you only lose 8, what have you done during that process of getting the 8 kilos off? You've still moved in the right direction. You've still made yourself feel better. Even if it's not quite the result that you wanted, it's still 8 kilos better than it would have been if you'd sat there just carrying on as you were. So whatever you want to apply that to, whether it's shedding unwanted kilos or whether it's, achieving a business goal or a number of members in Noble Goldman or whatever it might be, why do you want it? So reminding yourself of the why, and also, is that why in alignment with your values? So have you actually written down what your values are? Because if not, that's another exercise. And if anyone wants one, I can happily send you out. I've got a values exercise that you can complete, and it will help you fine tune what those are. And it might be that if you're in a funk, you're actually doing something or behaving in a certain way that's actually in conflict with some of your own values. Or you might be not really serious about wanting this goal that your mind is telling you that you want, but is it coming from your heart? Is it you really feeling that you want the goal, and what is the outcome that's gonna be, how's it going to impact on you and or your family or somebody else that's important to you that you care about? Is there something you're doing, might be for your community, might be for a family member, but could just be for yourself? How will you benefit? What's the end game going to be? Because reminding yourself of that is the major reason behind the motivation why you wanted to do the thing in the first place. And it's easy to lose sight of that. And when we get foggy about that, our motivation tends to drop. And particularly if you've got a few challenges, then that's when the overwhelm can start to take over. And if any of you ever read that book, Outwitting the Devil, which we went through on the Gold Star calls a few months back, that's what we call drifting, when you start just losing track of what you're trying to achieve and why you're trying to achieve it, and you start to fall back into old habits, and life just gets on top of you, and then you find you're not really being that productive and maybe not feeling so fulfilled. Any thoughts on that, anyone?
Yeah, I think that's really good, because that's a technique that I'm definitely going to implement, because my biggest problem I've got is I'm the one that wants to grow. I'm the one that's got these big goals and what I want to do now, but no one around me cares that I do any of that. They would be more than happy for me to stay exactly how I am. So I can't utilize them as part of my motivation, because they're just like, oh, just don't do it. It's okay. Like, we don't need you to do that. So everything I'm doing is because I want to go through this phase of changing my life. And so I think, like you say, having those 50 reasons written down that I can keep going back to remind myself of why I've chosen to go down that path to keep me focused is going to be beneficial. Because they haven't held me back. I've been held back. I've held myself back as using them as my excuse for not having to grow and not having to do these changes.
But Diane, you'll also find that once you change, they'll change their attitude a little bit. But, like I said, the focus is yourself. So once you're focused, you'll slowly see them change with you. So yeah, don't worry about them. Just focus on yourself.
I'm not worried. I'm not worried about them. I do see them already. Like, they'll tell me I'm saying something that's crazy, and next minute I'm hearing them telling someone else the same thing I've told them, but they won't admit that. So I kind of keep that under my belt of going, well, I know it's working. I know that they're slowly chipping away. But yeah, so that side of it, like, I'm okay with that growth. It's just I've allowed it to be an excuse, because as any time we're doing some growth, me just doing this study, that's going to be massive, because I haven't had to do that for 30 odd years, and it is a scary moment. So, but if I was to say to my husband, oh, I'm really struggling on getting myself into this and I'm worried about it, he'll just go, don't do it, you don't need to, don't worry about it. So, and before I would let that influence me and go, oh, okay, yeah, I can get away with it. But now I don't want to allow that to be my excuse. So I need something like, say, the 50 reasons to keep myself focused, to stay on board on what I want to achieve.
So you're going to do it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. Is everyone else going to do it? Whatever your goal is that you want to achieve, pick one, whatever the biggest thing is that you want to achieve for this year. Try doing the 50 reasons exercise. It's harder than you think. And I'll tell you what, what Jim Rohn used to say, that the things that are easy to do are easy not to do. It's easy to pick up a pen and grab a piece of paper and sit down and write. But it's also easy to go, that's a bit too hard. I'll just put off doing that and never get around to it. And I've got to be honest, when I started the weight loss journey that I had last year, I rattled off the first few, no problem. And I think I got up to about 34, and I'd run out of time that particular day. And it was possibly a good month or so before I went back to it to go to finish the rest of it. Because I thought, I had this realization that I needed to complete that exercise. And I kept going and came up with 50. And actually, once I got to 50, I found I could have kept on going. Some of them might sound a little bit similar, but it's surprising. You start thinking about, how is this going to impact on me? How's it going to impact on my family members, my significant partner, other people around me, friends, colleagues, workers? Who can I help as a result of this? Who am I going to become in the process of doing it? And that's probably the more significant thing about goal setting than the actual doing of the thing, whatever the thing is. It's who you become in the process of striving for it. So that journey, the challenges that you go through, the tests that you have, the way that either other people, family members, well-meaning friends, or even your own ego kicks in all the reasons why you shouldn't do it, or it's too hard, or yeah, but who do you think you are, or all those kinds of things that you hear your other little voice saying sometimes. All that kind of gets overridden when you have that strong basis, that foundation to go back to, and you go, well, who do I think I am? Well, I think I'm a person who deserves all this, and this is why, and here's my 50 reasons why I'm going to get this and why I'm going to make this happen. It's very, very powerful.
I know one for is a journaling exercise that I was shown how to do, and it's called 22 by 11. So you pick a phrase like, I want to be a nutritional coach, and then you literally write whatever comes up, and it could be negative or positive or whatever, and you often be just aware of what negative stuff was coming up to start with, and you basically do it for 11 days. And one time, I don't know, I was having a bad time, and I did it once an hour for 11 hours just to see what was happening.
Sorry, what was it, 22?
It's a 22 by 11. So you write your phrase out, you pick a phrase or an affirmation, and you write it out. So you write the affirmation, and then you write whatever your thoughts are coming up. Right. And you do it 22 times, and then you do it for 11 days or 11 times, because it is sometimes really powerful if you do it all in one day.
22 times in total, or 22 times each day?
22 times in a setting. So it's like doing your 50 reasons.
Right.
And you start looking for all your thoughts and seeing where they are, and watch them change, because they start changing about day 3 or 4. They start switching from negative to positive.
So it's kind of listening out for the objections and then having objection handling solutions. Yeah.
Yeah, and you just write whatever comes to your brain. You know, I'm not good enough. I haven't done any study. You know, I'm going to be a nutritional coach. Bullshit. Family doesn't like it. Whatever. And like, you'd be amazed at what comes up.
Yeah, that's really good, Stan. I think that the question I have there is what's the story that I'm telling myself here?
Yes. So it's an awareness. It's like an awareness drill for you, and you can use it with affirmations and stuff as well. So you can just pick an affirmation and write stuff.
Actually, that's just reminding me of something that and V mentioned earlier. Brene Brown, one of the things she talks about is that you get we make up stories. So when we start going down that sort of negative spiral, we start coming up with stories or justifications for why we should behave the way we are, or why it's perfectly acceptable to be in a shitty mood about this, because after all, that person did this and we've done that. And so we start filling in the gaps. So we make assumptions about what that person was thinking, or what that business was trying to achieve, or what that phone call was about. And we start putting words in other people's mouths to fill in the gaps. So we come up with a story about what someone else was thinking. And I've caught myself doing that a couple of times. And then I thought, what am I doing? Why am I letting and where's it coming from? Probably the ego. Why am I letting this story come into existence when it's not based on actual facts? What are the facts of this situation that I know to be true? So I had a situation where I had called my daughter and she hadn't returned the call. And then I started thinking, I wonder if she's annoyed with me because of this, because I forgot to do this and I didn't say that, or I didn't ring her when I was supposed to. And then I was like, what are you doing? Why are you letting yourself go through this process? Just don't assume anything. Just leave the message and wait and see what happens. And then when I did get hold of her and speak to her, she was fine. There was no problem whatsoever. But I could have easily built up in my mind that she hadn't called me back because there was some festering disagreement there, you know? And you go, why would I do that to myself? I've actually would have easily created a situation where I'd be worrying about what she might be thinking, when in fact she was just out doing something and busy at the time and didn't return the call because she was busy. So how many times in our lives are we doing that? How many times are we making up these stories and putting ourselves into a funk? Yes, Fee.
And the worst thing about it is that because you've had this whole conversation going on in your head that the other person knows nothing about, when they do actually get hold of you, you've had that conversation and it colours how you treat them before they've even said anything.
Yep.
Yes, I had a bipolar girlfriend who used to do that, sent 22 text messages in a row once, with as if I'd had an argument with her, but I hadn't actually said anything. She just filled in the gaps all the way through. It was a bit scary, actually.
Well, I was brought up with the fact that you always think about the worst case scenario first, and that way when you get to the scenario, and it's always usually better. So that was always the justification that we were given, that you'll feel so much better when you get to the event because it won't be as bad as what you thought it was. So, but you get yourself so stewed up just to get to there. And as you were saying, Veronica, you tarnish it because you're already in a mood, or you're already in a state, and they've got no idea why you're in that state. And then you do end up having some sort of moment, but it's not the moment you thought it was going to be. So it is a little bit less. But yeah, that was a big habit that I had to try and change, because that's how we were brought up. Always think about the worst case scenario.
So one of the key learnings that's come out for me in this last year with the work that I've been doing through Noble Goldman, and particularly all the books that I've been reading and so on, is about learning to be aware of when that little voice is kicking in, to be the observer of your own thoughts, and to catch yourself falling back in those patterns of where you're questioning things in a negative frame, or you're making assumptions about things without the actual facts. And to stop and ask yourself, is this actually serving me? Is this the best way to think about this? Or could I think about it in a more empowering, positive way? Could I give somebody the benefit of the doubt? Could I not make an assumption here about what their intentions were, in which really I know nothing about? I'm just making up stuff. And Brene Brown talks about that brilliantly in a few of her books about, just making up shit and literally getting yourself into a bad mood. And then, like they said, taking it out on somebody or treating them differently because of the story that you've been making up in your own head. So the more you can catch yourself and then realize what you're doing and then go, step back, let's not do that. Let's look at this in a more empowering, more positive way. That's going to make a huge difference to your life going forwards. It's going to reduce the amount of times that you're in a funk, and it's also going to equip you a lot easier to get out of them if you do fall into them, which we're all human, so obviously occasionally it will happen. Well, I'm just conscious that we're coming up for time. Has anyone got any other last thoughts that they'd like to add to that? It's been a great conversation today. No, we're all souped up and fully recharged and turboed up, and no funkiness going on around here. But actually, there's another thing about the word funk. Let's play some of that funky music and turn it to the other meaning of funk, which is about positive vibrancy and music and being upbeat. So let's leave it on that high. And thank you all so much for your amazing contributions tonight and coming along and making it such fun, and also a great learning experience for everybody, I hope. Well done.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks, everyone.
See some of you guys tomorrow at 7.
And the replay will be coming out in due course when I get to catch up with them all. So yeah, and V's call tomorrow at 7 a.m. Don't forget.
Yeah, B, have a
Awesome.
great one. That's like 3:30 for me, so
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
that committed yet. All the best, and I'll see you guys next week or tomorrow on Soul Cafe if everyone's going.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.